Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are ecstatic as ever to have our good friend back with us, Jake Horne, joining us. We're going to talk more about the Student Compass and all he does as a mentor and this thing called the Gap Year. We're going to break it down for you. First and foremost, let me just welcome Jake back to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm swell. It's been a long time since we've chatted, a month, and life is changing all the time, but all's well.
Great. Well, at the Student Compass, just give us a little overview as to the work that you offer with these students, these families. Pretty amazing. And then we're going to briefly get into the timing of this Gap Year process in just a moment. Go ahead.
Right. So the Gap Year is actually it's something that has happened in Europe since the Second World War, if not before the Second World War, where students, before they go to university, take time, a year typically, to backpack around, travel, see the world, meet new people, and kind of give them a break from being at the university and kind of get to know themselves, but just simply have an adventure. And that was sort of the original idea, is to sort of to grow up and to spend some time independently of your family and your community and just get out there. And so I started in 1994 with this idea of working with high school students who were planning on going to college, have been in school for 14 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Haven't known much, except what school is all about. And so as a result, they only know the world primarily through school or, if they're through their family or their local community, but they know very little about the world. And the world, of course, is enormous. And there are hundreds or thousands of different cultures, thousands of different societies out there that are new, novel, and they have lots to offer anybody who wants to understand the human condition themselves and how we as human beings have become who we are. So that the idea is really to give kids time before they go to college, to take a break, refresh their brains, give them a chance to actually get some perspective. Because a lot of these kids are so pumped. I mean, they're so anxiety ridden. They're so anxious about the future, about school, about living up to expectations. It's hard. And they haven't had time to take a break, to take a breather, and to kind of make sense of themselves. And this is particularly important before they go off to college or before they go off and do anything, is to simply be more, have a broader understanding of their place in the world and what they can contribute.
Beautiful.
Purpose and meaning.
Yep. Beautifully said. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, briefly of all the timing about the Gap Year process as well. Let's break that down if we can.
So it's typically a year, though some people would say it can be less than that. My belief is, particularly for adolescents, is for them to really absorb and experience. And we learn through experience, kind of like living it. They need at least 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months, because it gets them out of where they've been, gets them immersed into where they are, and gives them time to make sense of it. And so typically the gap years that I help them create really are 3 months long. They're in different parts of the world, and as a result, they have different perspectives. Yeah. And they spend time living in communities, volunteering, doing internships, doing experiential stuff, living and learning and immersing themselves in language, culture. It's very, very different than what they've gotten in school, what they've gotten in their local communities. And I would say now, even more, it's more important. We're slipping, this is my perspective, but I think it's true, we're slipping into a much more siloed world because we have this sense that, we make it on our own, and we have to do it on our own, and merit is based on being, doing it better than everybody else. And the fact of the matter is, for the human endeavor for 200,000 years has been community-based, with people working together to build some total, to build a community that it can be safe, that can be productive, that can be, that can actually support, positive, forward human condition. And we're sort of slipping into this other thing right now, I think, and it's not healthy. Kids need to be part of something. And it's confusing Gen Z kids, but I mean, it's sort of the 17 now through 25, 26-year-olds who lived in this, one kind of dramatic event after another dramatic event after another dramatic event. So there's a lot of instability in their lives that they've not seen a lot of opportunity to make a difference because it seems to be out of control. And again, I don't know, however, how all of you out there are feeling, but I think we're all generally feeling pretty insecure. And the things that are happening around the world, that really need our attention as a human body. So the point I'm trying to make with these kids is, if they're going off to college, and college is a pretty remarkable thing to do. I mean, it's, and all those applications have been submitted primarily now. So, and this came up the last time we talked, is when was the best time to start this exercise? Well, now, because their applications are completed. They're waiting to hear back from their schools if they haven't already. And so a lot of that pressure to get this massive thing done, which is how to apply to college and get yourself into college, is now behind them. The anxiety is, trying to figure out where you're going to go, or what's the right school. But the upshot is now they do have some breathing space, and this is really the time to sort of sit back and say, is it really important for me to just go to college right now, or do I really, in my heart of hearts, want to take some time to just take a breath, have an adventure, meet new people? Kids are curious, and they've been living in this very hidebound world. The pandemic did a real number on
very secluded world, let's say. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Isolated, I'd say. Yeah.
And and it's very, very isolated, and becoming less social in many ways. I mean, what social lives they have is far more in with other friends. Sitting around the campfire or meeting up with friends and just doing things. That's happening probably 30% less or 40% less than it has in the last 10 years. I'm sorry, before the pandemic. So, it's pandemic, but it's also society. It's also technology. And often these kids when they go off and take a gap year, they don't have the technology with them, or they have a limited amount of technology, which means they learn for the first time in their lives they actually can live without it. And that's really important, because how do you connect with other human beings if you're only living life through technology with other people? It's just a screen. So the screens aren't human beings. Screens are screens. And you're not having that normal, healthy, we're talking an evolutionary, organism here that has lived on being part of the lives of other people in real life, collaborating with them, living with them, doing things with them. So, I'm pushing the gap year even more so now than ever, because if these kids and the world, and I'll talk only about the United States maybe, is going to kind of rediscover its spirit, it has to do it through actual physical human connection, and not this, technology, which has great promise, but is out of control. And we've stepped into that world not knowing really what, the results are going to be. It's like taking somebody saying, here, take this pill, it'll make you feel better, and finding out it's not really going to make you feel better. It's going to it's going to change you in ways that you didn't think or understand.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we older people have done to our kids. And that's not changing. They're kids who don't know anything about the world except through the technology, whether it's through X or through Instagram or through, it's all manufactured stuff. That's not really the reality. So the way things get fixed in this world is where people actually learn to actually collaborate with each other, human to human. And it's amazing. This whole water cooler idea. I don't know whether everybody's familiar with that, but the beauty of the office is that, or living in, let's say, in a community like a city, is that you meet up with people you wouldn't normally bump up with, and you have these sidebar conversations where things happen. You all of a sudden say, bingo, I didn't understand. I didn't know that. I can do this. That's a brilliant idea. And that's been, it's at least temporarily, that's been waning. And so, these opportunities, which are absolutely critical, I think, not just to sustain democracy, but a viable economy and a healthy, creative economy and a healthy, creative society. So my pushback is be brave, go out in the world and just, experience the world. You're going to come back and you're going to find better balance. And then you go to college for a much bigger and important reason. You understand the value of college and you have context. Many years ago, and I know I'm talking, but many years ago, Northeastern University in Boston, which is primarily an engineering school, had a program, and it was at least 50, maybe 70 years old, where students would be 2 semesters on campus and 1 semester in an internship. Then come back to school, internship with a company, and they come back to school and take another 2 semesters. But they'd apply that experience they had in that company back into their academic understanding and studies. And then they go out and do it again. It took an extra year to graduate, but the brilliance is they came out far better engineers because they understood not just the concepts and the theory, but they actually understood the actual practical applications and how it works sometimes and doesn't work. And we all learn through experience. So,
sure do.
Yeah. So the gap year is a sort of this thing which is an interim possibility where kids can actually get a bit of that at a really critical time in their lives before they go off to college. Because then when they go back to college, they actually can apply those experiences.
Beautiful. And I know you want to also mention, this the intensity of the college application process is behind them, right? So we can already focus on what the future is going to look like, how to prepare for it. And I know we've spoken in the past about these amazing new careers. They're not just how we grew up, nurse, engineer, teacher, scientist, biologist. There's all these other amazing careers that give me some quick examples in the tech world, all these things, right?
Well, just everybody is hyperventilating about AI, and rightly so. And the fact of the matter is, what can AI be good for? Is AI going to control the human experience, or are humans going to control and use AI for its best qualities? Well, you have to go out into the world to understand what AI can do and what's healthy and what it can't do, because colleges are not doing much of that. They're talking about how to get a job, but by and large. Mm-hmm. So everything now is going to be, not everything, but so much is going to rotate around this artificial intelligence. They're even talking about general artificial intelligence now. It's like a big deal, and so you have to have people who are ethicists who can look at AI and what AI does, and they need to be also very familiar with coding, and they have to be very familiar with the present applications and capacities of AI, and bring that all together. There are also these lateral sort of aspects to bring together to be able to make good decisions about how that AI can actually enhance the human experience and not constrict it or not absorb it. There are going to be many jobs. I just want to pass one thing on, and I'll expand on this. But there's a report that just came out from the Wall Street Journal, which said that it was referencing Harvard, for instance, the Harvard Business School. Approximately 30% of Harvard Business School graduates can't find jobs. Wow. At least within the first 3 months after graduating. That is unprecedented. What does that say about the place of work in the human experience? It's going to be harder and harder. So you have to be able to bring to bear a a different way of understanding and thinking. And I call it lateral thinking. It's divergent thinking. It's how you can put these various combinations together and create something that is new, novel, ethically healthy, hopefully. But that's what the society needs. That's what the human society needs. So what I love are things, that are happening now. But for instance, where's our food going to come from? I mean, as the environment becomes more and more constrained by heat, by damaging storms, how do you create food supplies? Well, you have to have people who are engineers. You have to have people who are familiar with agronomy, food production, supply chains. You have to have people who are in finance, who are able to take, let's say, one of those buildings that is behind you, which is half full right now, and actually do something with it where you can actually grow local organic food. And it's part of the local community. How do you redesign cities, for instance, in ways that are really healthy and not ghettoized, or full of inequality, where only certain people can live and everybody else has to live in, very expensive rental, not slums, but, not very nice places. And that, to have a healthy society, you have to have these creative ideas of how you create new communities. And where you have, New York would be brilliant. I mean, if they can pull it off, is it takes some of these buildings which are not really being, it's not paying out very well right now, but actually change them so they actually can pay, and they're also provide a public good and a local community, because you can build in these buildings food, sources of food, residential housing, play areas, outdoor grounds, for people to be able to meet and gather as a community. I mean, all this is it's essential to have and collaborate all these different sort of disciplines together, and people can double, triple major for that matter in understanding the connections between food supply, healthy economy, healthy people, happy people, and healthy, safe cities, for instance. The problem with giving you the list is I'd have to read it in front of me.
I know.
I'd be happy to do that. I may just send you my list, but it's just like there are hundreds and hundreds of possible thousands of new jobs, which will require a very different way of thinking. And it cuts across. Technology really wraps into most of this. That's the thing. And so everybody has to have some facility when it comes to understanding technology. But, they're using drones for lots of different things, the things that people never thought, for planting fields, for gauging rainfall, for for doing topographical studies, looking at impacts of, climate change. And these are really important for collecting data and for maintaining and optimizing, if that's the right word, the use of resources, because access to resources is going to become a problem as well. It already is. So, sorry, I don't want to be grim about this. I think there's plenty of opportunity for kids to find really interesting work, but it's not going to be the same old. Finance is going to change rapidly. Is cryptocurrency going to be the sovereign currency of the world? I mean, what does that mean? I mean, it's going to get really complicated. So my point is that these kids have to feel as if they understand more about what the world can, where the world is going, what they can do in it, and they need to broaden their horizons by really leaving their communities, becoming more independent, more confident, and less anxious. And there's a lot more. I mean, a lot of these soft skills are really, really important. So, and the other thing, I'll just simply say, is that colleges are looking for these kids. They're looking for kids that actually have interesting experiences. I can't tell you the number of really good schools who will welcome a decision for a student they've accepted or who's on the wait list to take a gap year.
Yeah.
Because they know these kids are going to be more grown up, more mature, more self-assured, more confident, engaged, all of that, because they have a much different understanding of the world and a much more, they're more vested in themselves to engage with the world as opposed to just sort of sitting there in class and having some professor talk at them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Exactly. Well, at this time, unfortunately, we have to go. I want to thank you for being here today. I'm glad we got the matching memo.
Yep.
And again, just really want to, urge to, this is the time for that student to take that breather from the academic world. Find the adventure, find the excitement, discover, the common cause, as you say, and purpose with others their age who are grappling, I should say, over the idea of what's the future, what's going to come. Right. So Thank you so much, Jake Horne. Tell us how we can reach you.
The Student Compass, www.thestudentcompass.com. It's Jake Horne, and you can find us online as well as jakehorne8216@gmail.com. And I'm happy to chat with anybody just to chat.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. And always a pleasure seeing you. You have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.